Good evening, students. Welcome to our Dhyeya Education Foundation Maharashtra. Today we are going to learn computer subject. So first is CISC. What is mean by CISC? The architecture hard drive, the processor with the example instruction, which are different. So which are difficult to create otherwise using the basic instructions. Next is CISC combines the different instructions into one single CPU. CIS combines the different instructions into one single CPU. CISC has a large instruction set that includes simple and fast instructions for performing basic tasks as well as complex instructions that correspond to the statement in the high level language. Okay, now next, an increased number of instructions 200 to 300. 200 to 300 results in a much more complex processor requiring millions of transistors. Okay, now next one is instructions are of variable lengths. Instructions are variable lengths using 8, 16 or 32 bytes, okay, for storage. Next is the results in the processor's time being spent in calculating where each instruction begins and ends. Okay, with the large number of application software programs has been written for the processors. A new processor has to be backwards compatible to the older version of processor. Now with a large number application software program being written for the processor, a new processor has to be backward compatible the older version of processor. Next is AMD and SID are based on CIS. Okay, RISC means what? RISC has simple single cycle instruction. Single cycle instructions which performs only basic instructions. Instruction. RISC architecture does not have hardwire advanced functions. All high level language support is done in the software. Next one is RISC has favor instruction and require favor transistors, which results in the reduced manufacturing cost of processor. The instruction size is fixed. 32 bytes. 32 bytes has instruction size as fixed. AMD and RISC are based on CIS. Okay, and the processor need to be spent time in the finding out where each instruction speed and ends. Okay, now next is RISC architecture has a reduced production cost compared to CISC processor. And next one is the instructions simple in nature are executed in just one clock cycle. Okay, and next one is which speed up the program execution when compared to 6 processor. These processors can handle multiple instructions simultaneously by processing them in parallel. So it serves favor instructions and requires favor transistors, which result in reduced manufacturing cost of processor. Now Next one is interconnecting the units of a computer. Interconnecting the units of a computer. CPU sends data. CPU sends data, instructions and informations to the component inside the computer. Okay, as well as to the peripheral and device attached to it. Next is bus is a set of electronic single pathway and that allow information and signals to travel between components. And a bus is a set of wires. Okay, bus is a set of wires used for interconnections where each wire can carry one bit of data. One bit of data. A bus wire is defined by the number of wires in the bus. Okay. Next one is a computer bus can be divided into two types. A computer bus can be divided into two types: internal bus and external bus. Okay, internal bus and external bus. So next is the internal bus connects components inside the motherboard. Inside the motherboard like CPU and system memory. CPU and system memory. Now in internal bus connects component inside the motherboard like CPU and system memory. It is also called the system bus. It is also called the system bus. Okay, now this picture is system bus. So here is data bus, here is address bus, control bus. This is called as memory. This is called as memory. It is CPU's function. So next is interaction between CPU and memory. Interactions between CPU and memory. The external bus connects the different external devices peripheral. Okay, expansion slot. Now one I/O ports and drive connections. I/O port or drive connections to the rest of computer. To rest of computer, the external bus allows various devices to be attached to the computer. Various device to be attached to the computer. Now next is it allows for the expansion of computers capabilities. It is generally slower than the system bus. It is also refers to as the expansion bus. Okay. Now next one, database. Database. Database means that database means what? The transfers data between the CPU and memory. Database means what? System bus and database. Okay, database means what? Transfer and data between the CPU and memory. And the best wide of database affects the speed of computer. Affect the speed of computer. Now the size of data bus defines the size of processor. A processor can be 8, 16, 32 or 34. Okay. Now 64-bit processor and 8-bit processor has 8 wires data bus. Okay, 8 processor has 8 wire data bus to carry 1 byte of data, and in 16-bit processor and 16 wire can carry 16 bits of data, that is transfers to byte. Now controller, hard disk, monitor and keyboard, and expansion bus has CPU, memory and system bus. Okay, now address bus. Address bus connected CPU and RAM. Address bus connected CPU and RAM with set of wire similar to data. Similar to data bus, the width of address bus determines the maximum number of memory locations the computer can address. Next is currently Pentium Pro second, third, fourth have 36-bit address bus that can address byte or 64 GB of memory. And next is control bus specifies where the data is to be read or written to the memory. Okay, now next the expansion bus. So the function of data bus, address bus and control bus is the expansion bus as follow. The expansion bus connects external device to the rest of computer. The external device like monitor, keyboard and printer connects to ports on the back of computer. These ports are actually a part of the small circuit board or expansion card that fits into an expansion slot on the motherboard, and expansion slots are easy to recognize on motherboard. Next one is expansion slots make up row of long plastic connectors. Long plastic connectors, okay, and back to the computer with the tiny copper. Back to the computer on a tiny copper. Finger slots in a narrow channel that grab the connectors on the expansion card. So the slots are attached to tiny copper pathway on the motherboard. Okay. Next is data bus. Data bus is used to transfer data between I and O, input and output devices. I/O means what? Input device and output devices and CPU. Okay, the exchange of data between CPU and input and output devices is according to the industry standard data buses. The most commonly used standard is extended industry standard architecture, which is a 32-bit bus architecture. Some of the bus technologies are. Now, next one is external ports. External ports. What is mean by external ports? The peripheral device interacts with the CPU of computer via the bus. Okay, and the connections to the bus from peripheral device and made via ports and sockets provide to the sides of the computer. Next is some of the standard port connections available on the outer side of the computer. On the outer side of computer, an add port occurs: mouse, keyboard, monitor, network modem, and audio port, serial port, parallel port, and USB port. Okay, the different ports are physical, identifiable by their different shape, size, or contact pins or pins. Okay, now in this picture, in this diagram, it is a serial interface. It is serial interface and it is parallel interface. In serial interface, 1010 serial device. It is data bus, address bus, and control bus. Okay, data bus, address bus, and control bus has parallel interface in parallel device. Okay, interface of serial and parallel portal device. This figure is interactions of serial and parallel port interface. Now, performance of a computer. Next is performance of a computer. There are a number of factors involved that are related to the CPU, that are related to the CPU and have an effect on the overall speed and performance of the computer. Some of the factors that affected the performance of the computer include. Next is system properties. So this figure is system property. First is system restore. Next automatic updates. Last remote. Next system restores has general, key, computer name, hardware and advanced. In this figure, system Microsoft Windows XP. Microsoft Windows XP Professional version 2002 Service Pack 3 registers to A, B, C. Computer has Intel Core TM2 Duo CPU and physical address extension. Okay, now this figure is system properties in Windows XP Professional. Windows XP Professional, this figure is system properties in Windows XP Professional. Okay, now next is registers. What is mean by registers? So the size of the register indicates the amount of data with which the computer can work at any given time. The bigger the size, the more quickly it can process data. A 32-bit CPU is one in which is register is 32 bits wide. Next, RAM. RAM is used to store data and instructions during execution of the instructions. Next is anything you do on your computer requires RAM. When the computer is switched on the operating system, device drives, the active files and running programs are loaded into RAM. And if RAM is less, then the CPU waits each time the information is swapped. Okay, now into memory from the slower device, RAM in size, the better is its. Okay, next one is bus. Bus data is used for transferring data between CPU and memory. And the data bus will affect the speed of computer. The data bus will affect the speed of computer in a 16-byte processor. In 16-bit wire bus can carry 16 bits of data. Now next one is inside a computer cabinet. Inside a computer cabinet. The computer cabinet encloses the components that are required for the running of the computer. The components inside a computer cabinet include the power supply, motherboard, memory chips, expansion slots, ports, and interface, processor, cables and storage devices. And next one is motherboard. Motherboard means what? The computer is built up around a motherboard. The computer is built up around a motherboard. The motherboard is the most important component in the PC. The motherboard is most important component in PC. It is a large printed circuit board. It is called PCB. It is called PCB, having many chips, connectors and other electronics mounted on it. Now, the motherboard is the hub which is used to connect all the essential components of a computer. Now, the RAM, hard drive, disk drive, optical drives are all the plug into the interface on the motherboard. And next is the motherboard contains the processor, memory chips, interfaces and sockets, etc. The motherboard may be characterized by the form factor, chipset and type of processor socket. Okay, use. Only form factor refers to the motherboard's geometry, dimensions, arrangement and electric requirements. Okay. Now, in motherboard may be characterized by the form factors, chipset and type of processor socket used, and form factors refers to the motherboard's geometry, dimensions, arrangement and electric requirements. Different standards have been developed to build motherboards which can be used in branch of cases. It can be used branch of cases. Okay, now in different bands of cases, advanced technology extended means ATX. Advanced technology extended means ATX. It is the most common design. It is the most common design of motherboard for desktop computer. Now, which controls the majority of, and this figure is ROM bus. This figure is RAM OS. Okay. BIOS means what? It is the basic program used as interface between the operating system and the motherboard. It is stored in the ROM and cannot be written. It's stored in the ROM and cannot be rewritten. When the computer is switched on, it needs instructions to start. It is CMSO chip. This is battery for CMSO chip on the motherboard. CMSO chips means BIOS RAMs are accompanied by a smaller CMOS chip. And CMSO is the type of memory technology, memory chip. When the computer is turned off, the power supply stops providing electricity to the motherboard. And when the computer is turned on again, the system displays the correct clock time. Displays the correct clock time, and this is because the CMOS chip saves some system informations such as time, system date and essential system settings. Okay, now after that, CMOS is kept powered by a button battery located on the motherboard. The CMOS chip is working even when the computer power is switched off. Information of the hardware installed in the computer and such as the number of tracks or sectors on each hard drive is stored in the CMOS chip. Okay, now next one is ports and interface. Ports and interface. What is meant by ports and interface? The motherboard has a certain number of input or output devices in sockets. Okay, they are connected to the ports and interfaces found on the rear side of a computer. This is serial port. Serial port is connected old peripheral, and peripheral port is to be connected old printers. Okay, now next, this figure is ports on the rear side of a PC. Now next, USB port. What is meant by USB port? To connect newer peripheral like cameras, scanners and printers to the computer. It uses a thin wire to connect the devices, and many devices can share that wire simultaneously. Firewall is other bus. Firewall is other bus used today mostly for video cameras and external hard drives. External hard drives. Okay. Now next RJ45 connector called LAN or Ethernet port is used to connect the computer to a network. It corresponds to a network card. So integrated into the motherboard. VGA connector for connecting a monitor. VGA connector for the connecting a monitor and the connector interface with the built-in the graphical card. Next one is audio plugs. Audio plugs for connecting the sound speakers and the microphone. Okay. Now this connector interfaces with the built-in sound card. And PS2 means port to connect mouse and keyboard into PC. And SCSI port for the connecting the hard disk drive and network connector. Okay. Now last one is expansion slot. What is expansion slot? Are located to the motherboard. The expansion card are inserted in the expansion slots. Okay, these cards give the computer new features or increase performance. Okay, there are several types of slots. ISA Industry Standard Architecture slot to connect modem and input devices. PCI means what? Peripheral Component Interconnect. Slot means to connect audio, video and graphics. They are faster than ISA cards. They are much faster than ISA card. Next is AGP, Accelerated Graphics Ports. Slot fast port for a graphics card. Fast port for a graphic card. Okay students, I hope you will understand it and thank you.